My name is Emily Quinn, and when I was 17, my parents kicked me out for refusing to sign a luxury apartment lease for my sister, who'd already trashed my credit 3 times. I left with nothing but a cracked suitcase and a spine they didn't expect me to grow. I worked graveyard diner shifts, studied on flashcards soaked in syrup, and earned every cent they thought I'd never touch. 11 years later, I came back not to reconcile, but to reclaim. I bought the very house they tried to keep, turned it into a youth center for girls like me. And when they were evicted, I offered them volunteer slots, not sympathy. They cleaned floors in a shelter funded by the daughter they disowned. That was supposed to be the ending. But life, like karma, always has a second act. It started with a letter I didn't expect, no stamp, no return address, just my name in silver ink. At first, I thought it was another thank you note. The Quinn Center had been running for over a year, and we received dozens. But when I opened it, I recognized the handwriting immediately. To my granddaughter, Emily Quinn. My breath caught. It was from my grandmother, the one my parents always said had nothing left to leave. Inside was a legal notice. She had passed away months ago, and she'd left something behind, something my parents had tried to hide. A property deed, an old house in a remote part of the state, no mortgage, no taxes due. Just one clause, to be claimed only by Emily herself. If she refuses, the entire estate dissolves. I stared at the signature. It was real. She hadn't forgotten me, even when the rest of them pretended I'd never existed. Becca, read the file twice. You realize this wasn't about money, she said. This was a message. She believed you'd outlived their narrative. I didn't answer right away, because in my chest, something strange began to bloom. Grief. Not for the woman I barely knew, but for the girl I'd once been, who thought no one saw her. And now, a ghost had left me a door. The only question was, what was behind it? Sometimes the real inheritance isn't money or property. It's the chance to reclaim a name that was buried under shame. She remembered me, and now I have a key to something bigger. Not revenge, legacy. The drive took 4 hours. Long, winding roads through pine trees and silence. Becca offered to come, but I told her no. This one feels like something I have to meet alone. When I reached the town, it didn't even have a gas station. Just a general store, a shuttered post office, and a sign that said, Population 214. But at the end of the dirt road was a white 2-story farmhouse with green shutters and a wraparound porch. It looked like something out of a storybook. Only the story had skipped a few chapters. The house wasn't abandoned. It was waiting. The grass was trimmed. The gate wasn't locked. Inside, everything smelled faintly of lavender and old paper. There was a photo on the mantel. Me, age 6. Missing a front tooth. Wearing a pink dress I barely remembered. And next to it a letter. Emily, I tried to reach you before. But your parents always said you were too busy, too far, too angry. I didn't believe them. So I left this for you, this home, this land, and the journals you'll find in the upstairs study. They won't fix what happened, but maybe they'll explain it. Forgiveness is a door. You don't have to walk through it, but I hope you'll at least hold the key. Love, Grandma June. I climbed the stairs slowly. At the top was a study, small, quiet, sunlight pouring through the lace curtains. Inside, a wooden desk, and on it, a row of leather-bound journals, each one labeled with a year, each one written in her hand. The first page I opened said, the day Emily was born. I knew she'd break the cycle, if they didn't break her first. And that's when I realized, this wasn't just a house. This was a record, a confession, a history of everything I'd never been told. About why my parents really cut me off. About the debts they owed. About the kind of inheritance that isn't money, it's damage. And the people brave enough to refuse it. Sometimes the past doesn't knock, it waits. Patient and quiet, like a house no one lives in. But someone protected anyway. And now I have the key, not just to the house, but to the truth. The journals weren't diaries. They were records. Every volume from the last 25 years was organized like a logbook. Dates, transactions, names, notes scribbled in the margins like afterthoughts that burned. It wasn't just family history, it was a financial autopsy. I started reading the one labeled 1998-2003, the year I turned 10. Paul moved the last of the money from my inheritance into a personal account. He says it's for tax efficiency, but he's lying. He's always lying. Carla asked me to co-sign for a loan again. Said it was for the kids. That means her wardrobe. That means image. Emily doesn't know any of this yet. She's the only one who still asks me if I'm okay without wanting something in return. My stomach twisted. This wasn't mismanagement. It was theft, slow, disguised as family decisions. Becca had always joked that my parents treated me like a credit card. She didn't know how right she was. I found a folder inside the desk drawer. Inside were documents my parents never meant me to see. A forged co-signature from when I was 11, a credit card in my name opened at 15. A car loan defaulted under a joint account I never agreed to. They'd been training me to be collateral since before I hit puberty. And when I finally said no at 17, they didn't just kick me out. They panicked, because I was no longer a resource. I was a liability. I kept turning pages. And then I saw it. If anything happens to me, Emily must know. Her name was used to secure the house. They kept her out of the will to avoid conflict, but that home was never meant for Carla. It was meant to be safe. It was meant to be hers. My vision blurred. The house I turned into a shelter. It was supposed to be mine all along. They hadn't just cut me out of the family. They'd stolen everything and called it survival. There's pain in learning how deep the betrayal runs. But there's power too. Power in proof. Power in pages. They wanted me to forget, but she made sure I'd remember. Now I know the truth. And the receipts have my name all over them. I didn't text. I didn't call. I just showed up. Same town. Same front porch. Only this time I wasn't holding a suitcase. I was holding a ledger. They downsized to a rental house on the edge of town. Beige siding. Dead lawn and an out of order. Sign taped to the mailbox. When I knocked, my father answered. He looked older, grayer. Smaller, he didn't invite me in. Emily, he asked. Everything okay? I held up the leather-bound journal. Depends. How do you define okay when the truth finally shows up in handwriting you can't argue with? His face fell. Then came my mother, always 5 seconds behind. Always one mask ahead. We don't want trouble, she said. What's done is done. I stepped forward. Then let's do what's done, out loud. We sat at the dusty kitchen table. No coffee, no fake warmth. Just silence. I opened the journal to the first flagged page. Here, Grandma's note about the forged signature in 2003. You used my name to back a cash-out refinance. No denial. Next page. And here, 2006. You opened a department store card in my name and maxed it out on handbags and wine. Still no response. I turned another page. This one's about the house. The one I turned into a shelter. You said it was yours to sell, but Grandma put it in a trust. It was meant for me. She wrote it down. And you buried it. My mother finally spoke. She never understood what we were dealing with. She thought money just appeared. She understood you. I snapped. That's why she hid the truth in plain sight. Because she knew someday I'd come looking. My father slammed a hand on the table. We did what we had to. You don't know what pressure is until you have a family to carry. I leaned in. I was your family. You didn't carry me. You leveraged me. Silence. Just like the silence I'd lived in for over a decade. Then I dropped the final page on the table. The copy of the trust clause. The one that stated the house title had been reassigned, secretly, illegally, using my forged signature. This is enough to press charges. But I'm not here for court. I'm here to ask you one question. They didn't move. What do you think she would have said if she knew you were still lying? My mother started to shake. Not with anger, with something closer to shame. But shame only counts when it changes something. Emily, she whispered. We were desperate. I nodded slowly. So was I. And you left me in a garage with nothing but a space heater and a borrowed blanket. So don't talk to me about desperation. I stood, the journals under one arm. My silence finally empty. You don't owe me an apology, but you owe her legacy something more than this. And then I left, not because I was angry, but because I had nothing left to ask for, and nothing left to prove. Sometimes justice doesn't come from a courtroom. It comes from clarity. From naming the thing they refused to admit. From laying down the facts like bricks. And watching them buckle under the weight of what they built. They wrote their version of me in secrets. I answered in proof, and now I own the story. I mailed it in a plain white envelope. No signature, no return address. Just their names in black ink, clean, sharp, deliberate. Inside wasn't money, not a check, not even a threat, just a letter. Dear Paul and Carla Quinn, there will be no court case, no charges, no interviews, no headlines. Not because you don't deserve them, but because I refuse to let you rewrite this story with another performance. What you took from me, you already spent. What I built without you, you will never touch. I included one document with the letter, a printed form, a cease and desist agreement. One they didn't send to me, one I sent to them. It stated no contact unless formally requested, no use of my name, image, or business affiliation. No mention of reconciliation, in public or private. Violating it would trigger immediate legal action, with receipts they now knew I had. But at the bottom of the letter, beneath the legal terms, was one final paragraph. Just for them, if you still want to be useful, the Quinn Center still needs janitorial volunteers on Tuesday mornings. No cameras, no thanks, no favors. Just work that helps someone other than yourselves. That's the door I'm leaving open. It's the only one. Emily, I didn't wait for a reply. I didn't expect one. But 2 weeks later, the volunteer coordinator texted me. They showed up, again. No drama, just cleaning supply closets, and I let it be. Because some stories don't end with a confrontation. They end with terms, signed, sealed, irrevocable. I didn't need them to say sorry. I needed them to stop pretending they didn't owe one. Power isn't payback. Power is distance. Maintained with boundaries sharp enough to be understood, without ever raising your voice. They took my future once, so I handed them a task list instead. And in the quiet of that choice, I took back everything. It started with a sticky note, folded, crumpled, taped to the back of a door at the Quinn Center's study lounge. Barely noticeable, except someone had written in thick black Sharpie. Is it weird that I don't know what safe feels like? Just that, no name, no date, no smiley face to soften the truth. I found it on a Thursday evening. The center was quiet. Dinner had just ended. The study lights were still on. I stared at the note longer than I expected. Because once upon a time, I could have written that. I asked the staff who had been in that day. 6 girls had signed in for overnight programming. 2 new arrivals. One age 16, same as I was when things started to crack. Her name was Maya. She barely spoke. Avoided eye contact. Kept her bag zipped like she expected to leave at any moment. But she came back the next day. And the next. And one night, she knocked on my office door. "You're the Emily," she said. "Right." "That's what they tell me." I smiled. She hesitated, then sat. "I read your story. The air mattress. The diner. All of it." I didn't interrupt, didn't correct. She looked at the floor. My mom said I was too much, too loud, too dramatic, too expensive. I swallowed hard. So did mine. Did it ever stop hurting? I paused, because honesty matters more than hope. "No," I said. "But it stopped owning me." As she blinked, nodded, and then she reached into her hoodie and pulled out a piece of paper. "I want to apply for the scholarship. I don't think I'll get it, but I want to try." It was crumpled, spelled wrong, typed in all lowercase, and it was perfect. That night, I added something to the donor wall. Not a plaque, not a check, just a sentence etched in gold for the next girl who thought surviving was enough. I built the Quinn Center to protect my past. But it turns out, It exists for something more powerful, someone else's beginning. Because when we speak our truth out loud, we don't just heal ourselves, we leave a map. And the next girl, she's already walking it. I hadn't been back since the renovation. Not really. Sure, I'd stopped by for fundraisers, media tours, check-ins with staff, but I never stayed long, never went upstairs, never opened the door to my old room. Until now. No camera crew, no speech, no donors, just me. Just a late afternoon sun spilling through windows I once cried beneath. The hallway smelled like vanilla and new beginnings. The center had been open for almost 2 years, but that room, the one on the far left with the white trim and squeaky door, that was still mine. Even if I'd left her behind, I stepped inside. The walls were no longer cracked. The carpet was warm. There was a twin bed with clean sheets, a lamp on the desk, a framed quote above the mirror. "You are not what they couldn't love." I sat on the edge of the bed, ran my hand across the surface, and for the first time in over a decade, I exhaled. Not a business breath, not a performance breath, not the kind of breath you take before saying something smart in a meeting. Just a quiet, real breath, like my body had been holding it since I was 17. I didn't cry. Not because it didn't matter, but because healing when it's real doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just lets go without needing applause. Before I left the room, I opened the top drawer of the desk. Inside was a note, folded, blank on the outside, but inside, a single line. "Thank you for saving a girl you didn't even know." No name, just handwriting, shaky but steady. And it hit me they knew. They didn't need to meet me. They'd already felt me in the walls. I closed the drawer, turned off the light, and walked out, not like someone who had reclaimed something, but like someone who had finally set it down. We think power is loud, final, public. But sometimes power is silence, a door quietly shut, a past quietly forgiven, a heart that no longer has to armor itself to walk through a place it once called danger. I don't carry them anymore. I carry her, the girl who made it. And every time someone new walks through these doors, I leave a little more weight behind, until one day I won't be holding anything at all. The end of Emily Quinn's story. For the girl who was never supposed to come back, let alone own the place. Some stories end with a door slammed. Mine ends with one left slightly open. For the next girl who refuses to be quiet, because healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a whisper, a decision, a key, held in your own hand. I was the girl they kicked out, the one they thought would vanish. But I didn't disappear. I built something they could never touch. And if you've ever been told that choosing yourself makes you selfish, let my story remind you, choosing yourself is how you survive, and staying yourself is how you win. If this story reached something inside you, comment below with one word you wish someone had said to you when you needed it most. Like this video if you believe no one should be punished for saying no. Share it with someone who's still trying to find their way out. And don't forget to subscribe to Telling Story with me. For more true stories that cut deep, heal slow, and end with power, you don't need permission to be whole. You just need a place to begin. Start here.